This is Dynamics Talk with Dion Taylor.
Hey guys, Dion Taylor here. So back in February, I published a video where I did a high-level overview of the new autonomous agents that are coming to Dynamics 365 customer service and call center as part of 2025 Release Wave 1. Now, the previous week, I did an overview of the case management agent. So this week, I'm going to talk about the customer knowledge management agent. I'm going to talk about how it works, what it does, and why this is going to be beneficial for any customer service organization. Let's take a look. So let me show you how this is going to work. So in a second, here we go, we see a chat request that is coming in from Jim, and we're going to go ahead and accept that chat request. Let's just give it a second while it loads. And then we can see here that Jim is actually having an issue with his laptop where the battery is not charging. So let's just go ahead and respond to him and give him a couple of things to do. So I'm going to respond to him, say, I'm sorry, your laptop is not charging. Can you please let me know when this started happening? Okay, and let's see what Jim says. So he has tried everything, but it is still not working correctly. So let's see if I can give him some additional things to do. Sorry to hear that the issue isn't resolved. So I'm just giving him more options, and we're going to see if that actually fixes the problem. And let's see what happened. Okay, so those different steps really helped resolve the issue. So from here, the customer service rep can then end that conversation. Now, you can see that I have not created a case yet for this, right? Because the way that this works is that on the closure of a case, the knowledge agent is going to take a look at the information in that case, and then it's going to decide whether or not it needs to create a new knowledge article or if it's going to update an existing one. So I'm going to go ahead and end this conversation. And my case management agent is currently creating that case for me, so I don't have to do that manually, but let's take a look here once it does that. Obviously, I could also here hit this create case button as well. So this is that case that was created. You can see here that we have the live chat in here. We have the AI generated conversation summary in here as well. And what I can do right now is I can actually go ahead and close that case. So let me just go ahead and say, I'm going to resolve that case. It's saying we have one open activity. That's fine. We're going to cancel that or close that. And the resolution was that we reinstalled the battery drivers. Okay, let's just see that this took about 15 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever that might be. I'm going to go ahead and save and close my case resolution. So again, in that case management setup, what we've done is we actually set up some rules to define the cases that we want to use when, right, for that automatic knowledge creation. So that should now kick off, because when closing the case, that's really the trigger for that agent to go ahead and start looking at that knowledge creation. And what should happen then in a couple of minutes is we should be able to see a notification that the new case has been created. Now, in the meantime, I can just go ahead and close this. And as you can see here, here is my knowledge that is ready for review. Again, this is a setting that I configured. So from here, I can go ahead and view the draft. If you would want for your agent to also immediately publish that knowledge article, you can do that obviously as well. Now, here you can see again, right? There was, under the suggested actions, there was a knowledge article that was proposed. So I can click here to review that draft. You also saw that notification that I saw earlier, right? So I can click on view draft here as well. And then lastly, I can also navigate here to my knowledge articles. And if I go to the view here that says articles drafted by Copilot, I can see here those 2 articles that were just created. And here is the last one, right? Based on that conversation that we just had. So if I scroll down, there's a couple of things that you'll notice here, right? We have the actual issue. The laptop is not holding a charge despite initial troubleshooting steps. Then we have the cause as well, right? It began after the first charge and it was related to the battery not being recognized as plugged in. Not really a cause, but it's just grabbing the information right from that case. And then here you can see the resolution steps that were done. So from here, I can go through my article process and then obviously publish that article. So now let's take a look at the setup of that customer knowledge management agent. Now, before I jump into those settings, I first wanted to show you that you do need to make sure that some of these prerequisites have been already configured. Now, the first thing that you see here is that you need to make sure that you're using the out-of-the-box case entities or case tables, obviously, and that you also have configured Dynamics 365 knowledge management, right, inside of Dynamics 365 customer service. And then you got to make sure that you have enabled this as well so that Copilot can actually use those articles, right, when it's generating responses for the customer service reps. Then I'm also going to show you how to configure the connection references for the customer knowledge management agent flow, right, which is part of this preview. And then lastly, or really firstly, is the setting up the pay-as-you-go plan. You may or may not know that this is a paid preview. The way that this works is that each time that this agent is being used, I almost want to say, every time it performs these actions, it's going to consume these Microsoft Copilot messages. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you have some of those messages prepaid, right? Or as a pay-as-you-go plan. I actually have it set up as prepaid. So let me first show you exactly what that looks like. And then once we're done with that, I'm going to show you how to configure this knowledge management agent inside of Dynamics 365 customer service. So like I said, you would first have to set up your prepaid or pay-as-you-go capacity. Once you have purchased that or set that up, you can go here to the Power Platform Admin Center. You would go here to licensing and you would go to Copilot Studio. So here you can see the pay-as-you-go messages. I actually set up prepaid capacity over here. So you can see here we purchased 25,000 messages and then there's a couple of messages assigned and some of them have been consumed. Now, you would first need to go ahead and assign those messages. And you can do that by clicking here on Manage Capacity. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to search for my instance. And then here you can see that I have this environment within capacity. I can also go ahead and assign more. If I try to do this, I think there is a minimum of 500. So you would go and assign to 500. And then you would say, I'm going to, as soon as these 500 messages are consumed, I'm then going to draw from the available capacity in my tenant. And you can do the same thing if you have this pay-as-you-go billing plan. So that would be the first thing that you would do here. And then obviously you want to go ahead and save that. And you're not going to be able to set up and configure the agent until after you've done that. So now let's take a look at the agent's configuration. So here we are at the Copilot Service Admin Center, previously known as Customer Service Admin Center, right? So that has been renamed here to now be called Copilot Service Admin Center. So let's take a look to see where we can enable the customer knowledge management agent. So obviously I'm going to go here to knowledge, and then you can see here that we have the customer management agent over here. So this is where we're going to be able to manage that. So I can click here on manage, and what you can see here is that you can do two different things. You can do real-time creation, and that's really what you saw me do earlier, right? I was talking to a customer, the case was created, it was closed, and then in real time, it actually used the information from the current case to create those knowledge articles. You have to obviously set up some rules here and manage some attributes as well. So I'll talk about that in a second. The other thing that you can do here is you can actually let Copilot create knowledge articles from historical cases that are already inside of your database, right? So that's if you want to do that, you can just check this box, and then you can set your rules up. And this is going to be very similar to the rules that we're talking about for the real-time creation, right? And once you've done that, you can hit start, and then you can see here that those knowledge articles will be generated in bulk. And then only the most recent, right? How many are these? 100,000 articles or cases from your rules will be considered. So you might want to do this in bulk if you have more than 100,000 cases. Now let's talk about those rules, which again are the same for the historical and the real-time creation. If I click here on manage rules, this is again really telling me, or telling the agents, from which cases, which conditions must be met for a resolved case, right? To even be considered for a knowledge article, right? So that's really what we're doing here. So currently I'm saying here that the case needs to be resolved, obviously, duh, right? That's that trigger as well. And then also we don't want it to be modified over more than 30 days. So you can obviously add more filters here as well, right? You can see I can also add related tables as well. So if you want to pull in the customer table, you can do that as well. You can do some grouping, and then add row is just allowing me to pull in more columns from that case table here, right? So that's kind of what I did here. And then you can go ahead and activate that rule, or if you don't want to use that, you can deactivate that. And as you can see, you can have multiple rules here as well. Then obviously you want to map the columns, right, where the information is coming from, to the actual knowledge record. So this is what you can see over here. So we're really telling Copilot where this data is stored, right? So the title of that case is on the case record type. The data field is case title. You can see here that you can make some changes over here. So if you have some custom fields that you're using, you can do that, but you cannot add additional descriptions here, right? You can also, as you can see, you cannot change the incident resolution or the email content or that conversation summary in there as well. You can actually change, right? Case notes are actually notes, and then we're looking at the description of those notes. So that's really kind of showing you the information that you want to include. And if you don't want to use some of those, you can just uncheck the check marks next to it, and then it will not use those things, right? Then the other thing that you can see here is the compliance state of those created articles. So this really means that if we're actually setting this we're creating Copilot is creating this knowledge article. What do we want that compliance status to be, right? So here I'm actually having set this as pending because I want somebody to actually review that knowledge article after it's been created. And I want to make sure that everything is okay before we're actually publishing that article, right? If you set it to compliant, then nobody's really going to take a look at that article, right? So I'm kind of stage gauging here a little bit. If you set this to non-compliant, those articles cannot be published. So you probably don't want to do that. You probably want to set this to pending so that, again, somebody is actually going to review that before it's being published. And then you can see here automatically published compliant articles as soon as they're created. So through that approval process, we can have that human that's going to review the article change that status to compliance, and then we can automatically publish that article as well. Obviously, again, if we're allowing the agents to set the status to compliant, then it will automatically be published as well. And obviously, I don't want to do that right now. I want somebody to actually take a look at that article first. Now, the other thing that you might want to do, you guys saw earlier when I did the demo that I had that little pop-up saying that that new article, that new draft article was created. So you want to make sure that you actually set up those in-app notifications, right, for the customer service workspace. So let me show you real quick how you can do that. So you would have to navigate to make.powerapps.com, and then you would go to apps. You can see that I already have the apps below here as well. So I could have just accessed it from there as well. Here's my customer service workspace. I will go ahead and edit that. So let's just give it a second here while this loads. And then I will go here to settings, features, and I'm looking for the in-app notifications. There we go, right? So you can search for that. You got to make sure that that is actually enabled so that when that draft article is generated, then the rep is actually going to see that notification. And then there's one more step that we need to do, and that is to set the connection reference for the customer knowledge management agent flow. So let's go ahead and log into make.powerapps.com. I'm going to go here into solutions, and I'm going to search for my default solution. Let's give it a second here. Here is my default solution. Obviously, I'm going to look for cloud flows. Let's just give it a second here. I'm going a little bit too fast. Let's try this again. So we're looking for cloud flows, and then to be specific, we are looking for this knowledge harvest trigger flow V2. And you can see this Cloudflow is currently turned off. So let's just go ahead and drill into that flow, open it up, and let's take a look. So I can try to turn this on, but it's actually going to error out because as you can see, there is a problem with my connection references because it will want me to set a connection on each of those references, right, before I can move on. So I can do that by clicking here on see all. And what I want to do is I want to get this name. I want to copy that name over here real quick. I can also hover over this so that I can see that this is the 56268. So what you want to do is make a copy of that name. And then obviously we want to do the same thing here for the Microsoft Copilot Studio one as well. So again, I'm going to click on see all, see if I can copy everything here, or at least enough of it. Yeah, there you go. So what we want to do right now is create some connections here. So we're going to go back to the solution that we were in previously. So here we are back, and instead of looking for cloud flows, I'm going to be looking for connection references right over here. And then remember that I just copied over those connection references. Well, I'm going to go ahead and now search for them. Let's first go to my Dataverse one. Here is that first one. And then what I want to do is I want to click on edit. And this is where I want to link it to that connection. So you can see I already have 4 in here. But if I didn't have one, I can click here, new connection as well. Let's just go ahead and save this guy. Yeah, we're going to save the changes. And if I switch back now to that Power Automate flow, let's go ahead and refresh that. We should see that my Dataverse connection, there we go. It now has that green check mark. Okay, so now let's go and do the same thing for my Microsoft Copilot Studio connection as well. Here we are back in the default solution with the connection references. I'm going to now search for the Copilot Studio connection reference. I'm going to click here and edit. And I'm going to create a new connection because you can see I don't have any here. I'm going to click on new connection. And then I'm going to search for the Copilot Studio connection. And here we are. I'm going to click here on plus to create that connection. And there we go. It's, again, you can see it here on the bottom. Now let's go back to that previous screen. And here we are back at the connection references screen. I'm going to go ahead and refresh. And that should now, there we go, show up our Copilot Studio connection. I'm going to go ahead and save that, save my changes. And let's take a look. Lastly, let's take a look at that flow, refresh that one more time. And my connections both look good, and I can now go ahead and enable this flow. So once you've done all of those things, there's only one more thing that needs to be done, and that's to publish this agent inside of Copilot Studio. So you want to navigate to copilotstudio.microsoft.com, and then you want to find the customer service knowledge harvest agent, because that's really what it looks like inside of Copilot Studio. And you can see it right over here. Now, if you don't see it here, you can navigate to agents. You can search for this agent and then open it. And then you can go ahead and publish that agent. All you have to do is just click this publish button. I can click publish again, and I can just go ahead and close this. And this will continue on to publish in the background. And that is it. That's all you have to do. So what do you guys think? This is going to make knowledge management so much easier, right? I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you'll never miss another video again. Thanks for watching. Until next time.